All right, tell me your names, please.
Brianna.
Albright. Colby Hyman.
Alex Cancer. Mazam.
I'm Bailey Round. And I'm Megan Decker.
Okay. Miss?
William Whitten.
Okay. Okay, and can you tell me what one of your weakest areas was in English?
Yeah, my weakest area was probably understanding poetry and what all it meant.
Okay.
And so I went to Miss Anderson's Painless Poetry class.
Good.
And she helped us break it down and understand metaphorically what it translated to and what everything meant, and helped us understand all the similes and all the figurative language and stuff.
Okay.
So that helped a lot.
And can you tell me why that class was helpful? What about it made it easier to understand?
It was easier to break down everything, and so if we understood what a simile meant, and there was one example about freedom, and so it was talking about an eagle or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we broke it down into sections, it was easier to.
All right, and tell me what you were struggling with in English.
I was struggling with my thesis statement.
Okay, and what exactly about your thesis statements were you struggling with?
I don't know how to correctly word them and how to use the correct vocabulary in the statement, so I needed help with that.
Okay, and tell me whose session you went to?
I went to Mrs. Rose's session.
And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Rose.
And so you actually went to your teacher for your session, but there's something about her session that was different this time around, even though she is your teacher, so talk to me about that.
Well, her session was used a more broader approach to it. It was easier to understand because there were other kids in the class that I think that it was more based on an easier level of understanding, so that's why I think I understood it when I went to her session.
Good. And can you tell me what one of your weaknesses was in English?
Being able to explain in an expository essay.
Okay. And what session did you decide to go to that helped you with that?
I went to, you have some explaining to do in Mrs. Elliott's room.
Okay. And describe to me what you did in that session.
We worked in groups of 3, 4, sometimes 2, and we just bounced ideas off each other of how to explain something as simple as what is up to something complicated, what is math.
Okay. And did you compete with another group in explaining something?
Yes, we did a little bit, and it actually forced us to do ideas, bounce off each other, and just made things just go a lot more smoothly.
Okay. And then how did that help you to finally understand how to explain something in an expository essay?
It helped me realize that you can break it down in 3 or 4 pieces, and just when you explain each of those pieces individually, it comes together a lot more together, and just everything's a lot easier to. You can make the reader understand what you are trying to say, writing instead of speaking.
And that was one of your struggles?
Yes.
Was getting what was in your head down on paper?
Exactly.
All right, Bailey, I know Mr. Dye did this for you, but he made you look at your PSP and you had to choose your classes for the round robin according to your PSP. So what classes did you choose to go to?
I choose to go to a dictionary skills class and reading comprehension class.
Okay.
And a poetry class.
Okay. And talk to me about one of the classes that you went to that you learned something from.
I learned from reading comprehension that whenever you read, you should read the questions first, and then go back and read the whole story. And when you read the questions, to highlight certain focal points, and then if one of the questions were to locate a word in a paragraph, then you would highlight the paragraph number, so you would know.
And you talked to me about how that was stuff that you already knew mostly.
It was a refresher.
Right. And you said that on the day of the STAR test that you used those things,
Yes,
right? And you had already used those. You were already using those strategies,
yes.
But it was a good reminder to you to help you to understand the stuff that you were reading. Good. Thank you, Bailey. And Miss Megan, what about you? Can you tell me about one of the sessions that you went to according to your weaknesses on your PSP?
A few of mine were I went to a poetry class and a reading comprehension class.
Okay.
I went to Ms. Elliott's class and we worked on how to describe further into details on a certain subject, like using your senses other than just sight.
Mm-hmm.
And she explained on how to use other words that were not simple.
Mm-hmm. Albright, can you tell me one of your weakest areas in English?
It was Poetry,
And you just struggled with
understanding.
poetry, being worried about having poetry on the STAR test. And Brianna, what about you?
My weakest was writing thesis statements
And for
and
the
expository essays.
yeah, the expository essay. And Albright, can you talk to me about one of the sessions that you went to that helped you with poetry?
I went to the poetry. What's it called, breaking down onion. Something like
Poetry is like an onion.
That. Yeah, and I learned that if you go back and read the stanza before, so you might understand the stanza afterwards, and looking up words on the dictionary really helps a lot to understand what they're talking about in the poetry.
And you said you didn't even know that you could break down the poem to
Yeah.
understand it before you went to that session. Why did it all of a sudden click with you in that session that you could break it down? Like, what about that session made it all of a sudden make sense to you?
Like, when he said we could use the dictionary, I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. And you said Mr. Dye was funny?
Yeah, he was really funny and entertaining.
Okay. So he was entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay. Brianna, what about you? You said thesis statements were a struggle for you, so what session did you go to?
I went to Thesis 101,
Good.
and it helped because we didn't really have a lot of kids in that class. Well, we did, but it was like spaced out, and she had everybody write a thesis, and then she went over to each one and read them and told them what was wrong about it.
Okay.
So it helped me.
Okay. What did you learn about thesis statements in that session?
That your reasons have to be something that you can write a full paragraph on, and not just something like little.
So you learned that you needed to know that you can write something about it. Good.
I struggled with some of the literary words, such as hyperbole and whatnot.
Okay. And what session did you go to for help with that?
I went to Miss Anderson's Top 10 Literary Countdown.
Okay. And what did she do that helped you to finally understand that?
We got to use iPads, and we got to use our word that we were assigned to put into a song.
Okay.
And I think that kind of helped all the kids because we were in our neck of the woods with technology.
Oh, good. Okay. And do you feel like you understood those words a little bit better after leaving that session?
I do.